Hello, good morning, and welcome to another Saturday sewing vlog. Back already because I am actually going to get my Madeline quilt that I made in the last video long arm quilted today. I'm very excited to go take it to get quilted, and by get quilted I mean I'm going to quilt it. I rent time on a long arm machine near me at Over the Top Quilting, and I haven't been in months, so I'm very excited to take my quilt top over there today and get it all quilted. So let me show you where it's all at. Okay, so since the last video, it is now a completed quilt top. And I shared that on Instagram a few days ago. I'll put a picture in case you missed it, but this is a quilt top. Also, my mom watched my video and I shared my pattern with her because she wants to make her own version. And so she was reading through my pattern and she realized I made a mistake on my quilt top, but it's not that big a deal. And I don't know if any of you guys noticed, I didn't see any comments on it, but basically the quilt top is made up of, these short and skinny rows, and they either start with a print or they start with a background. And I didn't realize that the instructions called for these tall rows, and the short rows. Well, so, okay. I'm describing this so bad. Basically, I am 1 2.5 inch strip short on every single one of my rows. So like there's a column missing from my completed quilt top, but that's only 2.5 inches of extra width. And I decided I don't care. But I did slightly misread the instructions. And so I am missing technically one column over here. But that is okay with me. I think instead of my quilt being 65 inches, it'll be like 62.5. It's fine. So yeah, okay, anyways, that is my completed quilt top that's all ready. And then I had to get my backing ready, and I did not have a backing in mind when I started. And I have, you can see on the shelf behind me, I keep a lot of bigger either 108s or yardage that I've designated for backings, like in this shelf. And so I went through that shelf and I found this. So this is a Ruby Star Society print, and I believe, I don't think I have the selvage. I cut off the selvages to prep my backing, but I'll put it down below. I think it's a Rashida Coleman Hale. Oh, I've forgotten. Anyways, I got this a couple of years ago, probably at Over the Top Quilting, which is where I go rent long arm time. They don't sell a lot of quilting fabric, but what they do sell a lot of is backings, which is awesome. And they're having a backing sale today. So when I go in, I'll have to look for other fun backings I might need. Anyways, I just thought this super fun yellow print, white flowers with the little pink centers is gonna look awesome with my bright and cheerful strawberry print, which this does have yellow in it. Yeah. I even found, I could show you this later, but well, I guess I'll have to show it to you later. So I'm not sure where it is, but I found in my stash my leftovers of this print that I had used for my By Annie backpack lining that I made. So I have almost a half yard of this. So this is going to be my binding print to go with the top and the backing. So yeah, that's where I'm at. My appointment is in like 30 minutes. So I'm just getting everything prepped to go over to the quilters. My long arm studio, they do zip on quilt backs. So maybe this is dumb to explain, but if you've ever used a long arm quilt machine, there are various ways to attach your backing fabric to the machine, to the leaders. This is probably boring, but anyways, My long arm studio, they use zippers. So I have basted my quilt back onto these super long zippers so that I'll just zip them onto the machine and then I'm ready to start. And hopefully I'll show you guys all of that at the long arm studio. I have filmed there before. There's Diego. I have filmed there before, so I think they'll let me film again today. Hi. Oh, hi. Why is it? Okay. Look, do people want to say hi? Okay. He's so mad at me now. He hates when I hold him. He just wants to roll around at my feet on the carpet and let me pet his tummy. Oh, we got a Jonesy. Oh, you can't really at least see if you can see him. There's Jonesy. Okay. Anyways, I've got 30 minutes. I need to get all of my stuff packed up. I was also going to show you a knitting project. Maybe I'll show you that when I get home. Yes, Diego. Yes, are you so needy? So my plan for today is to completely finish this quilt. I'm going to get it all quilted. I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to square it up and I'm going to put on the binding. And that might be all I accomplish today. I'm not entirely sure, but if I have more energy or more time, I also kind of want to start another new quilt. Yeah. And I've also been knitting a lot over the last 2 days. So I have another knitting project I can show you later. And yeah, luckily this room is still pretty intact from last weekend's cleaning session. Just need to tidy up. You can't see the table behind me, but there's some stacks of stuff on the table to put away. Yeah. Anyways, I'm feeling good. I'm really excited to go to the quilters. So let's go. What, subscribers? 23,000, I think.
Wow, I remember when we celebrated a 10.
I know. Okay, so I am back home from the quilters. It's also been a couple hours. It's like 5 or something. But I got my quilt quilted and I messed up part of it. Why am I being so dramatic? I really don't like making mistakes. Who does? I've never made this mistake before. I don't know how it happened, but basically my quilt back got bunched on my first row of quilting, and there's a couple of pleats in the backing fabric. So I noticed it right away, like, well, when I was kind of rolling up the quilt to go to the next row, but it would have meant unpicking a lot of quilting. And I decided, since this quilt is for me and it's not going to even be hung on the wall, it's just a couch quilt, I need to just like let it go. I'll show you where the pleats are. Let me see if I can find them. So basically the worst offender, and I don't even think you know what, you probably can't even see it on the camera, so why am I, but right here, you can see it like folded over for like, you know, a good 18 inches. Yeah, and right here too. It's fine. Once it washes, I know I'm not really gonna notice. I mean, maybe I will, but it's not a big deal. No one else is gonna notice. But I also really don't know what went wrong. I loaded my quilt back onto the machine the same way I always do. Somehow it just wasn't pulled tight enough. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's fine. It's a beautiful quilt. It's fine. But yeah, so anyways, also, did I tell y'all about the backing earlier? I forget what I filmed this morning. I think I already talked about the backing, but I am really, really pleased with how it looks with, you know, the quilt front, because there is a good bit of yellow on this quilt front. And I think it's just a really happy, pretty, fun backing. So yeah, and then I did a it's called Daisies Galore, and it's just like an all over computerized little floral pattern. Hopefully the light is good enough from the windows that it's kind of showing you the quilting pattern. But yeah, okay, so I got it all squared up. Now I just need to put on binding. So yeah, I'm gonna go grab that fabric and flip around and get the binding cut out, and let's see if I can get it attached and be done with this quilt and able to wash it and see hopefully if some of those pleats kind of shrink up a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, so for the binding, I have these leftovers from a backpack I made, and let's see how much this is. Oh yeah, this is a full half yard. I might be able to get all of the binding out of this. I also have a little piece of, or actually this might be a full half yard too. So I've got these two, and then I have all of these scraps. Let me just get the quilt up here and kind of decide, do I want to do the hot pink binding? I mean, that would be pretty fun. How much hot pink do I have on the sides? Because I don't want too much. And then with the backing, I mean, that's pretty fun. Or do I want it to be more subtle and be the plaid? I think I might do this hot pink. I really thought I was going to do the plaid, but I think this hot pink might be it. Yeah, I'm gonna use this hot pink. I'll save this plaid for a different project. Okay, so if I do 2.5 inch binding and I have 18 inches, I can get 7 strips of binding. And let's see, my quilt is 60 by 75, so that's 120 by 150. It's 270 inches. I would use my phone as the calculator, but the phone is up here filming. So long division it is. Let's see, 270. Why am I trying to remember how to do long division? So 7 strips should be perfect. Okay, great. And if for some reason Those 7 strips aren't enough. I have plenty of scraps. I'll just use a scrap piece of something else. Oh, you guys. That is why I had ruled out this piece. I had forgotten that it wasn't a full half yard because obviously I'd already cut into it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, there was a reason I had picked that plaid. Let me go back to the plaid. Actually, I should use my stripology ruler to cut my binding. Okay. Let me iron this and I'm gonna use my stripology ruler again. Yep, so I can get 7 pieces of 2.5 inch width binding out of my fat quarter, or I mean out of my half yard. So perfect. Always get paranoid that I've put the blade in the wrong hole, so I just have to double check because I don't want to then cut the rest of them wrong. Amazing. Okay, that was the simplest and quickest way to cut binding. Love it. Honey, get down, please. Get down. Okay, so before I get all my binding attached, I haven't put a label on this quilt, and I want to do that. So there's probably many ways to put labels onto quilts. I have the Sweetwater, is it Sweetwater? Yes, the Sweetwater Company iron-on fusible labels, and sometimes I sew them in, but most of the time I just iron them on and top stitch them on in the bottom corner after my quilt has been quilted, because I just find it easier than trying to piece it into the back and then making sure it ends up in a normal spot, like on the back. It doesn't get cut off or it's not in the margin. So I tend to just iron on and top stitch once the quilt is quilted. And yes, that does mean that you'll see the top stitching from the front of the quilt, but with the quilting and everything, you never really notice it. So I'm gonna dig through my little Sweetwater labels, and these are custom printed that you can order them. They have a website and an Etsy. And so I have a big sheet of ones that all look like this, and then I have like kind of a multi-pack. So I'm gonna pick one for this quilt, and I'm gonna sew that on before I do the binding. I think I'm just gonna use one of my ones with the little heart on it. Okay, so I just cut it out with a 1/4 inch margin, and I'm just going to fuse it down into the bottom left corner of the back of my quilt, and then I'll top stitch it into place. Okay, so now I've got my little quilt label on there, and then this is how it looks from the front. So it is top stitched right here. Really, honestly, not very noticeable at all. So yeah, okay, now I'm ready to bind my quilt. And I like to do a 2.5 inch width, and I do a single fold, so I fold it completely in half, and then I like to machine sew to the back, top stitch to the front. So that's what I'm gonna do. I like to attach my strips using a bias join just because I feel like it hides the seam a little bit better, and because I think it's super simple to do with this seam guide tape, so that way I don't have to mark my 45-degree angles. Basically, I just line my strips up perpendicular to each other, and I use the selvage edge to make sure I'm lining things up straight. And then all I have to do is sew straight down this 45, and I just line up the spot where the 2 fabrics meet with this red line up top and at the bottom here. And then you can see you've got a nice little bias join right there. So anyways, and then I just chain piece them. So I do that one, and then I bring this fabric piece up, and I bring the next one in, line them up, and start sewing. Alrighty, and so now I just clip them apart, and I clip off the excess fabric. Just a rough, 1/4 inch left. I just do this with my scissors. And then I will take it over to the ironing board and press everything in half. And I just attach my binding with a pretty standard to maybe slightly generous 1/4 inch. and then it will flip over to the front and we will top stitch it into place. So it has been quite a few hours and my quilt is done. I just pulled it out of the dryer, so it has got all that crinkly, quilty goodness now. I really don't like to use quilts until they're washed. So as soon as I get my binding on, I wash my quilts immediately. I did take those photos and that video outside before I threw it into the wash. But yeah. Now it's all washed and crinkly, and I wanted to talk again about the little pleats I got in the back of my fabric. Of course, washing did not like make them magically go away, but they do look better. It's still annoying, but it's really not that big a deal. I'm just going to show you what they look like now that they're out of the wash. So here is one of them. I'm trying to see. It's so hard. I mean, I guess you really can't see it on camera, but it's just like some little pleats right here, and then the other one it's just kind of like right here. I'm gonna stop pointing it out. It's really not noticeable unless you're like this close to it looking at it. Otherwise, this backing from Ruby Star Society is the silkiest, softest 108-inch backing I've ever used. I'm obsessed with it. It's an older one. It's one they've had for a few years at my quilt shop, so I don't know if it's one you can get anymore, but this is absolutely beautiful and I'm so happy. I think it looks so nice with all the fabrics. So yeah, I finished my quilt. 1 week. So I started this Saturday around noon last week, and I finished sewing the binding on this at 6:37 p.m. Saturday night, a week later. So yeah, really pleased with myself to have, you know, gotten back in here and made a quilt and gotten it done so quick, and just, I don't know, started sewing again, and kind of got out of my head about it. So yeah, I think the binding turned out super cute. I do think I would have probably slightly preferred the hot pink, but I forgot there was a reason why that hot pink wasn't gonna work. Yeah, and here's what the binding looks like from the back and the front when you do the method that I do. Yeah, so I talked about at the beginning of the day how I was going to start another quilt project today. That didn't happen. I might start it tomorrow though, and let me show you what I think I'm going to start next. I think I had talked about this in my last video, but I got this seasonal Stitchy Stars table runner pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop, and this is designed by Lori Holt, and I really want to do this summer version right here. And so I got this pattern out a couple days ago and was looking at it and trying to pick fabrics, which I did. But I was looking at the finished size. So it finishes at 16.5 by 79.5, which is really long for a table runner. And my dining room table is only 60 inches or maybe 64 inches long. So I don't really want it to hang off the sides. I like to use a tablecloth and then have a table runner that sits up on top of the table. So I think for my table, what I'm gonna do is, instead of doing all 7 blocks, I think I'm just gonna do 5 blocks. And I don't know which 2 I'll eliminate. Like, I'll just pick my 5 favorites and then I'll just make mine, you know, shorter. So I think that'll come out to be probably somewhere around 50-ish inches. I forgot to do the math or write it down earlier, but yeah. Oh, this is boring. What's more exciting is the fabric I picked out. So I thought I would do this with Lori Holt fabric because I do have a lot of it in my stash, but I didn't have all the exact right colors to kind of fit the look of this one that I really want to do. So I started digging through my fat quarter bundles, and I found this, which is Isabella by Minnick and Simpson. And so I have some really great red and pink, different shades of blue, and then I have on my fabric shelves back here, I've got a white background yardage that I can use. So really I just need a couple of the red and pink and a couple of the blue. And yeah, I think it'll work great for this little table runner. So that was going to get started today. I'll probably start this tomorrow or sometime during the week. We'll see, but not tonight because it's like 10:30. Yes. Okay. What I am going to do tonight though, is I'm going to knit some more. The past few days, other than working on this quilt, I've been knitting a lot. And I pulled out an old knitting project that I started in 2019. And this is my only knitting whip that is not that sweater that I've been working on. And so this one is a blanket, a knit blanket, because I'm crazy. And it looks like this. It is a lovely little chevron, garter stitch chevron pattern with these chunky stripes. And it's beautiful. So I picked this up 2-3 days ago, and I knit this row, or this stripe of color, and then I started the second stripe. I had done one full repeat before I put it away. So yeah, I just have been really in the mood to knit lately, and I was like, before you start another new project, because you have a sweater you can knit on, but I wanted something more like colorful and fun to knit on, because I've been watching a lot of videos where people are knitting like socks and shawls and just colorful things, and I was like, you have a super colorful fun blanket, go get that out. So I did. I got this out and put in some stitches on it, and I did a very important thing, which was figure out how much yarn I actually need to knit this entire blanket, and I ordered the rest of it because I don't remember why exactly, but I only ordered one ball of each of those yarns to start with, even though I knew it wasn't going to be enough to do the full blanket. And luckily, I only needed to order one extra ball of all the stripes to get the size blanket I'm knitting. And you can see all my little colors and stuff in here. But to figure out how much yarn I needed, I was like pretty proud of myself. I have a little postal scale that I use when I like mail out giveaways and things, and I switched it to grams and weighed all my little balls of yarn and figured out like how many ounces or grams of yarn I was using for each stripe. Yes, so I figured out I only need one more ball of each of the colors and I'll be able to get my whole blanket. So anyways, and this is just in a very, very simple tote bag that I literally made exactly for this project, just to hold all of these balls of yarn perfectly in place, with just random fabric out of my stash. So yeah, anyways, that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the night. I'm going to go sit on the couch and knit for a little while before I go to bed, and then maybe I'll start another quilt tomorrow. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and for joining me in the sewing room today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.